Oh, there's a guy on the roof. Oh, God, I've been trying to drink more water. I even found this really nice water bottle to motivate me, but can't do it. Water's great, but I just prefer drinking tea. You know how people guzzle water? I just can't do it. I know the pigtails are young. I just can't get over them. I just love doing them sometimes. It makes me feel a certain way that I can't explain. I don't know what age I'm going to get to and no longer be able to do it, but I'm really, really holding on to it for as long as I possibly can. Sorry. Some days I feel like I can get my words out really well, and some days I feel like I can't. And it'll be interesting to see what day today is, because it's easy once you get in the flow of it and you're on a subject and you just keep talking, and that does usually happen to me, but it takes me a little bit to warm up. So bear with me, okay? Today I wanted to talk about essentially identity crisis, because lately I've found myself talking about my story a lot to going through these job interviews. And obviously they ask the classic question, tell me about yourself. And I think about that question and I'm like, is there a different way that I could approach that? Or do I just have to go, I was born here, these are my passports, my mother's this, I was brought up. And I guess that is what they want to hear, because that's kind of what brought you to today. But a large part of me thinks that there's so much more to everyone's story rather than just the basic, where you were born, what school you went to, what degree you chose to do, your hobbies, all of that. It would be so cool if you went into a job interview and you just blindsided them completely with a different answer. I found myself telling my story a lot, and it goes something a little like this. My name's Rosetta. I was born in New Zealand to a Kiwi father and an Australian mother. I spent the first 4 years of my life in New Zealand, which I can't remember. And then my father got a job in Spain, Valencia, and the whole family moved over there. I lived in Valencia, Spain from the age of 4 until 18. And then I chose to study my sports management degree at Loughborough University in the UK, where I spent 4 years of my life playing semi-professional/professional football. I then proceeded to pursue my professional career in Adelaide, South Australia, where I was playing for Adelaide United for a season. Last year I got an opportunity back in Valencia, my hometown, playing for Valencia CF, and that's where I finished my footballing career. So it was a bit of a full circle moment. And then usually after I tell that story, they have a bunch of questions, naturally, because it's a bit all over the shop. I mean, I've lived in 4 different countries at the age of 25, and that's probably not the norm for most people. And I like to humor it a little bit with, I've got a little bit of what I call identity crisis, because I don't really know where I'm from. And as much as it's funny and it kind of makes everyone laugh a bit, it's a reality for me. Like, I do think about it, and all the time when people ask me, where are you from, I can't give one answer. I literally say, how long have you got? To be honest, I don't feel much attachment to New Zealand. I don't remember my life there. The biggest chunk of my life of time that I've spent somewhere is in Spain, and so emotionally I feel connected to that. But equally, my blood isn't Spanish. Like, my mother and father that made me, they're not from Spain. So I struggled to actually say that I'm Spanish. I say that I feel Spanish, but I don't say that I am Spanish. And so this poses a little bit of an issue sometimes, but it makes for a great story, don't get me wrong. Like, it really works to grab people's attention. But for a long time I definitely saw it as lacking that sense of self was a big negative thing for me. It was a little bit of a holdback, because all of the places that I've been to, countries that I've lived in, the cultures that I've immersed myself into, my really good friends that I've made along the way, they had a very strong sense of self. And I always admired that, because I loved seeing people embedded in their communities, in their culture, in their families. And I think that's something that's admirable. And to be honest, that's something that probably society lacks more often than not nowadays. My mouth's so dry. Tea time. For example, I always drew myself to really great friends that had such strong values and really knew who they were. And that's always fascinated me. I had this really, really good friend growing up. We were best friends. I would spend every weekend at her house, and she came from the most beautiful family. Funnily enough, her parents were from different countries, but it was so cool to be a part of something such a great family with such strong values. There was so much love in the house always. We were always doing things together. It was very Spanish. I found myself always so drawn to that situation, and I think it's manifested in my life in other ways. The more I've grown up, and I've realized the older I get, the more that I want that. When I moved, obviously at the age of 4, I don't remember much at all. If anything, the only things I can remember is sometimes when I see photos. I can faintly remember going to school with my sister or playing in the garden, hanging around mum and dad, those kind of things. My memories begin in Spain when I first started playing football. And that was the wildest experience for me because it was in the most Spanish group you could ever find. Not one word of English was spoken. That's when I started to feel more Spanish because I learned the language. And to break, once you know the language, you're so much more immersed and you understand everything so much better. And so definitely felt like I had built a new self, a new little Rosetta, and that was very much me, playing football, speaking Spanish, hanging out with my friends, and it was so cool. And I feel like that was an identity that I held on very tightly until I was 18. Then I moved to the UK, and oh my God, did this throw a spanner in the works. Moving country at 18 to halls of residence full of young adults your age, with no parents, was the best thing ever. It was so much fun. You can imagine. And it just opened a whole new world for me. It was an opportunity where I was able to make my own decisions. I no longer lived with my parents. So when I say this opened up a whole nother world for me, it massively did. And some questionable decisions were made for sure, mostly in who I chose to like at that time. But I don't regret anything. I feel like playing football very much restricted me from having that liberty of making mistakes and going out and doing stupid things that you're probably supposed to be doing when you're that age. You're supposed to be doing that no one can understand, and that's how you figure it all out. You figure what you like and what you don't like. Maybe I don't want to though, because it would be a little bit embarrassing, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it was so important for me to have that experience. I had that freedom and I made those mistakes, and you're in a whole other country. The English is so different to the Spanish. The Spanish are way more conservative. In England, especially at university when there were no parents around, anything goes. It was so liberating to be able to reinvent myself in another country. It was two-factor, right? It was a whole different culture that was really open and honest. And the second thing was that I found myself in a situation where I could choose what I wanted to be and choose the decisions that I wanted to make. I think when you have a different background to everyone else around you, you can definitely feel like an outsider, like you can't relate as much to the others because obviously they were all brought up in England and they all had their families that they could drive home to in 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. I didn't really have that. I'm not trying to say my situation was harder, but it was different. It was not relatable for the other people around me. Then it's harder to find a solid group that you're a part of because the whole consensus about making friends is that you have things in common, that you can relate to each other, you have conversations, you understand each other, and that's what brings you close. All I could relate myself was to my Spanish background, which was very hard to find in Loughborough University. I did have a really great group of Spanish friends and I loved hanging out with them, and it gave me a little piece of home. And to be honest, I still do that to that day. I still very much gravitate towards Spanish people, and it feels like a piece of home for me. And moving a lot has its benefits and tells a great story, and I think there's a very much another real side to it, which is not belonging. That's something that still I think about to this day. Fast forward, moving down to Sydney, Australia, another opportunity to reinvent myself. Again, twofold, reinvent myself without my football. So I don't think I give it enough respect. I think I've normalized moving country and just creating something absolutely new will be easy. I don't know why. I always think I can get through them, but sometimes I don't give it the respect that it deserves. Why why do I think that moving to a new country with no friends, I have the most beautiful family friends here that I'm so grateful for, but they all have their own things going on. Like, really, it's up to me to build a whole new life here. And I don't really think about that. I don't think ever when I've moved, I've ever thought about how much it actually takes to establish yourself in a new country. For me, there's no real connection until now, so it's something that I've had to build from the ground up. It's probably good that I come into these situations naive, because what's the point of building it up in your mind and being so scared? You probably eventually won't do it. So I think my way to combat that is to not think about it too much, just to act and just do and move, and then you'll figure it out. But 10 months later, I've been here in Sydney, and in my mind, I probably would have thought maybe I'd have like a solid group of friends or solid routine or a solid job. And I literally have none of those three things. That's not to say that these 10 months haven't been amazing. They have been amazing. I've met some awesome people. I've had some crazy experience, and ones that I'll never forget my whole life. I think where I go wrong is it takes longer to establish yourself somewhere in a foreign country. It takes a bit of energy and time and patience to do that. Every culture is so different, and it's not easy to adapt to that one. Sometimes I think where I'm best suited to be in the world, I'm constantly trying to figure out. I'm a big believer in whichever environment I'm a big believer in the environment that you're in affects you so heavily, like it's almost make or break. Then I'm also, okay, it doesn't matter where you are, you kind of have to just make it work. I think there's a blend between the two, right? If you're in an environment or in a country that you genuinely feel like is working against you, then is there any point of staying? Probably not. At the same time, if you keep looking for excuses to not find your community, to not settle, to not make it as great as you can be making it, then you're just going to be on a constant move and never feel like you belong anywhere. Sydney's such a great place to be. It's so beautiful. The quality of life is so high. But a big part of me and my heart feels like I miss Spain so much, and I wish I could be there. I miss my friends, and I miss that version of me. I don't know if anyone has lived in different countries. You feel like different countries bring out different versions of you, and sometimes I miss the guiri Spanish Zeti. It's definitely different to how I feel here. I try to be in the present, but I do catch myself how much fun it is, and maybe how much fun I have being over there, because I have that other side to me. But the massive shift that I've had recently going into the job interviews and meeting new people is you have to lean on your story. And when I think of my story, as much as I've always been a bit of a different one, haven't felt like I belonged anywhere, in the past I probably didn't lean into it as much as I should have. But when you have things that make you stand out from the group, it gives you that uniqueness. Like, I've spoken about it before. It's so cool that I've been able to experience all these cultures in these different countries so deeply already at the age of 25. Some people haven't even left their country yet. How lucky am I to have had all of these amazing experiences? And when I find myself talking about it, it's normalized in my head. It's funny because when I tell the story, people's reactions are like, oh my gosh, wow, like you've moved around a lot, you've done a lot, you've done all this. And yeah, but it's just normal to me. Like I could move again tomorrow probably and I'd be fine, I try to lean into that more and find a way how to tell my story. It's not me not belonging, not having an identity. It's more so I've built so much strength from moving and reinventing myself in these 4 countries, and that's now my backbone. I'm proud to say that I feel Spanish. I'm proud to say that I'm a New Zealander. I'm proud to say my mother is Australian, that I have Australian citizenship. I'm also so proud to say that I moved at 18 years old to a new country to go to university and absolutely loved it. And so reinventing myself every time wasn't a deficit. It was an opportunity for me to evaluate myself every single time. I had to check in with myself. I have to question what my values are, who I'm going to choose to hang out with, how I'm going to choose to spend my time. And I am so privileged to have had these opportunities. And that's why I have a strong sense of self, because putting myself in different environments has forced me to do that. It's forced me to question myself. It's almost fast-tracked my becoming. Every time you put yourself in a new environment, it doesn't need to be moving countries like me, but It could be anything. It could be starting a new sport. It could be creating a new project or having a new hobby. It forces yourself into these uncomfortable situations where you do question your morals and your values and what's important to you. And often I have conversations with people and they're like, damn, you seem like a little bit older than 25 and you're quite mature for your age. And I think that's a product of my environment. I've been forced to think about things like when you have to make a big decision to move a country for your career at 21 or 22, you genuinely do ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? Is this what I want to spend my time with? This is what's important to me. Am I investing this much for this outcome? And it forces you to think about things, not just do things willy-nilly because you've always got something to fall back on. Starting something new, there are consequences to that. So you have to stop and evaluate things. Funny because I very much have that outline of the story that I told at the beginning, and it's very easy to forget the details, the struggles. I'm very good at that. Of course, there are hard times and there are defining moments in those experiences, and that's what makes you who you are. But then that makes me think it's not the story that gives you evidence of who you are. It's you right here, right now. Like everything that you've done in your life is leading up to this moment right here. That is evidence of everything that came before you. Who you are, how you show up every day, how you present yourself. That's the most evidence you're going to get of your story. That's something I'm trying to see. That is evidence of everything that came before you. I mean, let that sink in a little bit. You literally are a product of all the decisions that you make in life. My dad always used to say, you are what you eat. And he's not wrong. You are what you eat. But you also are a product of your environment, a product of your decisions, a product of your relationships. And if it's something that you don't like, then here's some good news. Your story is still being written. Put your hands on the wheel, take responsibility, make some choices that you're going to be proud of, and build that backbone, build your story, respect yourself, and be proud of that version of you. That is my story on why my story is important. And why your story should be important too. How you show up today is what is the most important of everything that's come before you. That's my yap of the day. I'm going to go for a little coffee. And yeah, it was great chatting, and I'll see you in the next one.